visited him in his Fairfax area apartment in Los Angeles, and I didn't know what I was going to find, and he probably didn't know what he was going to find. I was intimidated by the guitar smashing Banshee, who was doing drugs, and he was probably going to be intimidated by the bespectacled Rolling Stone reporter from the Northeast. And as it turned out, the more we talked, the more we realized we had a lot in common. He would tell me about how he was small for his age and didn't relate to jocks and wasn't athletic and just didn't relate to the whole macho thing. And, you know, I stood up and said, look at this. And it turned out our parents were divorced when we were both 10. We listened to the same Arlo Guthrie song and ran around the house pretending we were motorcycles. You know, for some reason we just had connections. And the opportunity came up later to do a book. And he was very ready for that, and I think he knew that I knew I got him. And then after that, you know, all these interviews, as it said at the end of the movie, were conducted at his kitchen table from, you know, midnight, 1 in the morning until sunrise. And there's a certain intimacy, you know, that you get when you're talking to someone at 3 in the morning, no matter what. But a lot of times I would just let him talk. And he felt really comfortable around me. And in the beginning, the early interviews are very business-like, chronological. And after a while, I just said, I got to document this guy. You know, I had a feeling that he was not going to be around too much longer. So I just tried to get as much stuff on him as possible because I knew it was going to be important. But he trusted me. And it was great. It was an intense experience.
One more quick question.
I was struck also by all the elements of like the built environment in Seattle that weren't there when he was alive. So that must have been a conscious decision to show those as well, rather than to try to make believe that it was the Seattle that he lived in.
Yeah, I mean, part of the idea of the film is that these cities have gone on, and that they maintain certain characteristics that will remain the same. And there are certain things about them that have changed. I think in Seattle, having spent a bit of time there in the early 90s, how much Seattle has gentrified and how certain neighborhoods, even where there were clubs, you know, and there's a shot of a salon called Vane that at the time was one of the, you know, I forget the name of the club, but it was like one of the main clubs in Seattle. But there were some very specific choices. For instance, towards the end of the film, when Kurt starts talking about the future, and he says, you know, in 10 years, what the world is going to be like, and when he talks about kids not caring anymore, we have this young Seattle artist, a teenager, who is doing what I think is some of the most amazing collage art and dealing in the exact same themes of body organs and depression and boredom and apathy and teen angst in some ways that Kurt was dealing with, and so it contradicts him in a way that it does. The world keeps moving on, and there will be a kid walking down the high school classroom in Aberdeen who doesn't feel quite as connected to other people, and there will be a guy who's cleaning out fireplaces at the same resort that Kurt worked at, and there will be a band from Seattle that's about to break onto the national scene, playing one of their last shows before a hometown crowd. And these things will go on, and they will go on in his absence.
His absence really is, for me, that what the contemporaneous footage is all about. Because I look at some of that footage, and I just think, Kurt is not here to see this, and it was his decision. But when I see that contemporary stuff, it just reminds me that he's gone, and it's the cumulative effect of that is incredibly powerful for me. Somehow I had the equipment to survive, and he didn't.
Well, it was nice. There's not a lot of audio interviews with Kurt, so it was, or video interviews even. So it was nice to actually hear his voice saying the same things that I've read before in Michael's book and other books. I don't know. It was pretty well put together. I wasn't sure what to expect, but I enjoyed it. Nothing personality-wise came across different to me. I always found him kind of funny and aloof at the same time. I am 26. I related to Nirvana not just because of the music, but because of a lot of the things that he was talking about, different activist things, that he worked on, gay rights, rape, broken home syndrome, whatever it's called. So a lot of that's just reinforcement. I mean, I didn't learn anything new really from the movie, but I got to see it in a different way or experience it in a different way than I have from the books. I was out in the middle of nowhere with no cable TV and trees and farmland. I like a lot of the bootlegs I have, I think, better. A lot of the live concerts, which are hit and miss, they're either really good or really bad. That could just be the bootlegs that I have, I guess. No, never got to see them live.
Do you know who did?
Yeah, and they have nothing but horror stories to tell me, actually.
Such as?
They were just not impressed. At the times they saw them, they were either a bar band or a huge stadium band, and they didn't catch them on good nights.
Were you in a band? Are you in a band?
High school and early college, yeah, and then I switched gears and became a filmmaker.
Do you listen to a lot of punk? What do you listen to?
I'm kind of stuck in the early 90s, actually. A lot of L7, Soundgarden, Alice in Chains, stuff like that. I didn't really leave that time frame so much.
Maybe you need to start your band up again.
Yeah, right?